The novel revolves around a troubled protagonist haunted by loss and consumed by a deep-seated aggression, seeking outlets for his pent-up emotions. The story initiates in a small-town bar where our lone wolf narrator, fueled by heartbreak and anger, is ready to unleash his fury on anyone daring enough to cross his path. Despite his desire for a fight, he remains unchallenged, leaving him to confront his inner turmoil alone. Escaping the confinements of the bar, he embarks on a journey to Las Vegas, a symbolic move mirroring his internal descent into chaos and risk-taking. Once in the city, he channels his energy into high-stakes poker, using the game as a means to numb his emotional pain. His night at the poker table proves unexpectedly lucrative, turning 500 into nearly 4,000, a victory that momentarily distracts him from his grief. Intoxicated by alcohol and success, he navigates the blurred lines of Vegas, where excess and self-destruction coexist. Encountering a group of women at a bar, he seizes an opportunity for connection, or perhaps more accurately, distraction. His bravado, amplified by alcohol, leads him to make a bold, uncharacteristic move, showing a side of himself that surfaces only in the depths of his despair. Throughout the narrative, the protagonist battles with his dual nature, the man grappling with profound loss and the wolfish instincts urging him towards self-destructive behavior. The novel paints a vivid portrait of a man on the edge, navigating the darkness within and the lure of Sin City's bright lights, all while grappling with love lost and a future that seems as uncertain as the next hand of cards. In essence, Under the Neon Moon is a gritty, emotionally charged tale of a man's struggle to reconcile with his past, confront his present demons, and find solace amidst the chaos, set against the backdrop of a city where fortunes can change in the flip of a card. Chapter 1. Trouble usually finds its way to my side of the fence. That was the mantra of my existence. Trouble. I was in the mood to bust heads and asses, in that order. I wanted to snap bones, smash noses, and crunch ribs. I turned around and walked outside the front of the bar. I leaned on the building, relaxed but still ready to bust some skulls if they had the stupid balls to come outside. I lit a smoke and shielded it from the drizzle inside, my cupped hand holding it backward. Being a lonely lone wolf, I channeled a little bit of James Dean and a lot of Dirty Harry, and I got ready to fight all comers. With no car keys and with a full bar tab inside, I waited for them in a light drizzle, looking up at the murky night and hoping that Maya couldn't see far. I had sunk without her. Unable to stop myself, I lifted my chin and at full volume I howled miserably into the weeping sky. No one dared to come out, not even the bouncer. That was just as well. The people in there were smarter than they looked. There wasn't even one drunk asshole who was itching to fight like I was. That was fine. There was more of this night left. I walked inside and demanded my car keys. I paid my bar tab and I got the hell out of that shit bar. I was sure as hell not through with this aggression that loomed inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I just howled out my window as I drove. It was a howl for the ages. I howled all the way up the 15 freeway and I made my way to Las Vegas. No one had better mess with me. Actually, I hope someone would be the one. I dare you. Chapter 2. I drove down the 15 freeway. It was a dark, lonely road and a visual metaphor for how I felt inside. My future was only lit up as far as my headlights reached. It was a damn short vision of the next few hours, not to mention the rest of my life. How am I supposed to go forward when the love of my life has been taken from me? I started breathing heavily as I fought the urge to howl again, which took a lot out of me when I did it in my human form. My eyes began to water and I looked off into the night as I drove and cried out, why? Why? This pain wouldn't go away. I loved Maya so much. Before I knew it, my Mustang was hitting 100 miles an hour. The more I heard, the faster I drove. My eyes were so watery that I could barely see the road. I passed the city of Baker and the next stop was State Line. I drove until I hit Las Vegas. By then it was 4 in the morning and I wasn't tired. My adrenaline was pumping and I needed to do something competitive. The only competitive thing that I could really do in Vegas at 4 in the morning was play poker. I was still in the mood to drink and gamble, even though it was so early in the morning. I decided to stay at the Riviera, located between all the really nice hotels on the Strip in downtown Las Vegas. Downtown Las Vegas was made up of classic, famous casinos from the Bugsy Siegel era. It was a little cheaper than the high-end swanky hotels on the Strip. The Strip was glitzier and upscale. I was more of a downtown and dirty guy. I got to my room and looked at my bed. Did look inviting. Maybe I'll sleep off this aggression? Not quite. This day had just begun. I was tired but wired. I continued to look at the bed and I couldn't help but think of Maya. I missed her so much. Missed her next to me. I missed the way she would hold my hand all night. I'd let go, she'd find my hand again and hold it. She had done that numerous times throughout the night. Eventually, I'd felt peace when she held my hand. And it had become my comfort when I was sleeping. I didn't have that comfort anymore. And I suddenly realized that a bed without Maya in it would just be torture right now. Fuck sleep. This pain was unbearable. I needed to play poker. Serious poker. Rat Pack style. I remembered there were good games at the Venetian Hotel. I had played some poker in my time. I had quit it when I admitted to myself that I loved the gambling highway too much. When I'd quit, I'd lost a lot of money and I'd promised myself that I was quitting for good. The truth was no one ever quit while they were winning. Not one gambler. Ever. At the time, even though I was making great money, I couldn't even pay my bills. I was that hooked. And here I was back again in Vegas about to slay this inner need in me to even up the loss in my life. Not that anything could ever replace Maya. I just knew that right now another woman was the last thing on my mind. Poker would have to provide some small compensation. This morning would be the first time I'd sat at a poker table in a couple of years. I shut down all of the jangling alarm bells in my head as my old frenemy, compulsive gambling, reared its seductive head from the depths of where I had buried it and had replaced it with MMA fighting. And with a zeal too. It was not a secret to me that I liked winning. Whether it was MMA fights or poker. Or once upon a time women. Many women. But now, even that old fire inside of me wasn't enough to overcome the need to take risks and feel the zing of pleasure at beating the dealers at their own game. The pain of losing Maya was too much to bear, and gambling would ease that pain in some small way. If I won. No. When I won. Getting excited about getting back in the groove of playing poker again, I took a quick cab to the hotel. It was faster than waiting for the valet guy to fetch my car. It was about a 10-minute ride versus an hour walk. And the sidewalk burned my feet through my shoes. When I got to the Venetian Hotel, I grabbed a Red Bull and I admired the casino's architecture. I made my way to the middle of the casino. I stopped by the ATM machine and pulled out $500, my bank's per day limit on my ATM card. Imagined I could come back to the cage later and get more cash. But they charged a lot of fees to pull out money from an ATM in this town. And if I used my credit card to pull money, the interest would be astronomical. The only reason I knew this last fact was due to my last trip to Vegas, which was a financial debacle of epic proportions. And yet, here I was again giving myself rope with which to hang myself. I was hoping this 500 would be all I'd need. I had done some ridiculous gambling in my day. Of late I had gotten away from. There wasn't any way that I would have let Maya see me do it, and, truthfully, I had never needed it with her in my life. The whole time I was with her, I don't think I ever even thought of gambling. Not once. She was that much magic in my life. But now with her gone, well, it was time to revisit one of my old and much maligned friends. Risk. The click of the chips, the soft whisper of cards turning over. The stoic dealers pushing the stacks of chips my way. It had so much allure that it was nearly sexual. Plus, I freaking loved playing poker. Had always been good at math and odds and pushing my luck. And wasn't life itself about pushing one's luck? Outside the casino, the song playing was "Luck Be a Lady Tonight." "Sing it, Frank," I said aloud. When I got inside the massive casino floor, I discovered that $500 games weren't even their biggest games. They had a $10,000 buy-in room in the back. That was protected by a couple of guards. It had a sign that read, "Highest Stakes Poker Room." I guess that meant there was no limit to a buy-in. Well, I had $500, so that was the game I played. I went up to the floor man who was assigning tables. I told him I wanted in on the $500 game. He said there was immediate seating. Another guy led me to the table. It was near the front. I sat down at the table and I looked across the table. There was a blonde woman who looked a little like Maya. Her eyes caught mine and she gave me a sexy little smile. I smiled back, but was not about to get involved any kind of flirting. I wasn't over Maya. Not by a long shot. I wouldn't be over her for a long time. Fever. I didn't even want a one-night stand to let out all my frustration and pain. That kind of sex wasn't good for anyone involved. I may have done stupid things in my life, but since I had met Maya, misdirected physical passion wasn't one of them. The ache of a woman I loved, lost, and missed could not be filled with a surrogate body. It had to be someone I loved. Maya. The brunette flipped her hair just in the way that Maya used to flip her blonde hair, and the familiar gesture almost gutted me. Okay, I wasn't going to be celibate either. Well, not forever. But damn, I was going to respect the memory of Maya long enough to not jump for the first girl to smile in my direction. I knew all about rebound women from my earlier mistakes in life. Live and learn. I sat down and took out my 5 bills and handed them to the dealer. He counted the C-notes and gave me 1 rack of $5 chips. I had 100 chips. Felt rich. If I was smart, I would have cashed them in and left Las Vegas, but what would be the fun in that? I had come here to gamble and drink my pain away, and I would be doing plenty of both. Booze, the world's most popular anesthetic, and gambling, the world's second most popular indoor sport. The dealer was an older Scottish gentleman. I liked his accent. It was real. Burly, as if he was going to break out in a song from the Brigadoon musical. He looked like an old-school dealer from the 1920s, craggy face and all. And away we go. We were playing Texas Hold'em. In Texas Hold'em, everyone at the table was given 2 cards. They were called pocket cards. High cards were what you wanted in your pocket cards, or you wanted a pair of the same thing. After everyone looked at their cards, there would be a round of betting. After the betting was done, the dealer would lay down 3 cards, burning every other card. This was called a flop. Everyone who was still in the hand would be able to use the 3 cards on the table along with the 2 pocket cards they got in the opening deal. Another round of betting. Then the dealer would burn a card and lay down only 1 card. That was called the turn. Another round of betting would occur. Again, everyone left in the hand could use all 4 cards to help their hand. Finally, the dealer would lay down 1 final card. That card was called the river. Everyone left in the hand would place a final bet, and if there was a call, they'd turn over their cards to reveal the winning hand. I sat at the table itching to play, itching to get back to drinking, because the 2 things went together so well. I didn't think I could gamble without drinking. A drink in one hand, cards in the other. Luckily, Las Vegas had no last call time on drinking. In California, they couldn't serve me drinks at this hour. In Vegas, any time was drinking time. I got the cocktail server's attention and ordered a double tequila shot. I was finally dealt into a hand. There were 9 people at the table. I was dealt 2 cards. I peeked down at my cards the way the guys do on TV, so nobody would see my hand. I had an ace and a king of spades. Nice starting hand. Very pretty. I bet it hard and the cards held up. By the river, I had 2 pair and took down a $600 pot on the first hand. My drink arrived and I pounded the double shot of tequila in 1 gulp and ordered another one. I was just getting my swagger on. This was going to get real fun. There was nothing like drinking and gambling to help a hurt guy forget his troubles. So I wanted to drink and stay at the table as long as I could. Stay up, I thought, willing my cards to be good. Really good. And they were. I sat there at the table for 8 hours and was up $3 grand. The cards were going my way. At least something was. I'd had about 20 shots of tequila. In the process, werewolves could hold their liquor better than humans. I was pretty drunk, though. I was slowly becoming more and more belligerent, and I was aware that I was loud and annoying. I didn't care. I was in Vegas. What were they going to do to me? Tell me to behave when thousands of people walked the strip, drinks in hand, bellowing their joy or pain into the desert night like a cacophony of pleasure and pain bursting simultaneously? I was soon going to put that to the test, how far I could push the envelope in Vegas. I decided to get up. I was still dizzy from being drunk, but damn, I had a shitload of chips. I went to the cashier and I cashed out, walking away with almost $4,000. Turn $500 into $4,000 in 8 hours? Shit, this is great. I should be a professional gambler. That was what gamblers always thought when they won. Chapter 3. The alcohol was making me tired. I needed my second wind. I looked at the casino main lobby and saw a sports book and another bar right next to each other, both calling my name. I liked the bar part. I made my way over and there were 3 ladies in there, mid-20s at a side table, who were starting to get loud. The blondes were even catcalling the guys as they walked past, sizing them up in a most unladylike manner. A brunette with them smiled softly and sipped her drink. Obviously, some of them at this table were looking for trouble on a stick. Well, they just found it. I decided to do something I'd never done. I would have probably never had the nerve to do something so bold and so silly when sober. But I was far from being sober. I grabbed a napkin and a pen from the counter near the cash register. I walked over to their table and stood there and waited. I was quiet as I stood. I wasn't being intimidating but just more waiting for my turn to speak. I had learned that with some women to get a word in edgewise you had to stand and wait with an expectant expression on your face, as if you had some important reason to interrupt them, like maybe their hair was on fire. The three ladies all stopped talking and looked at me. "Oh my," said the oldest looking of the three. She had a bumpet under her teased hair that lifted her hairdo into a most impressive height that was a throwback to the 60s, though she didn't appear old. She was dressed all retro. In a white mini dress, even in white shiny go-go boots. "Boots in this heat," she crooned. "Aren't you a popsicle on a hot summer's day?" I looked at her, completely confused, and said, "What?" "She thinks you're tasty," said the only brunette at the table, the quiet one, who sipped her drink and didn't catcall the men walking past their tiny table. "What do you think?" I asked the brunette. The girl was pretty, but I was far from truly flirting with her. I was looking at this as a game where no one wins. I just entertained myself while I was drunk by interacting with others, especially those of the opposite sex. Deep down I was a dirty dog. Like that. "I think a girl could get pretty full on whatever you're dishing up," the brunette said to me, a bemused expression on her face as she subtly looked at my face and shoulders, sizing me up, but in a classy way. I nodded my head and smiled. I put the pen in my mouth and gave her a wink. She looked at my lips and licked hers ever so subtly. Damn, I didn't want any of that, but it was still flattering. "Excuse me? Who are you?" the youngest looking of the three asked. I was especially ignoring this one on purpose. She had platinum blonde hair and probably had never paid for a drink in her life. She didn't look to be much older than 21, but I wasn't going to give her an ounce of my attention. I knew it made her nuts. She'd had guys fawning over her for her whole life. She wore that whole entitlement attitude like an invisible tiara. In contrast, I'd often thought of Maya as the girl next door type. Pretty, sweet, and very genuine. She was a natural blonde and she oozed innocence. This girl was a fake platinum blonde and oozed, let's just say, not so much innocence. In fact, I suddenly realized that maybe she probably charged for her time. Whatever the brunette was doing at the table, she wasn't engaged in their activities. "What are you girls drinking?" I said, pretending to be a waiter. "Are you a waiter? Or are you a guy buying us drinks?" the platinum blonde asked. I looked at her and said, "Rest assured that I am not." "You're not what?" she asked. "Ever going to buy you a drink," I said plainly. "Who the hell are you?" the platinum blonde said to me. She had probably never had a guy treat her that way in her life, and I found it very amusing. "Do you fucking work for this casino?" she continued. "Because if you do, I want to talk to your manager." "Go right ahead. His name's Willie. Tell him I need change my I-9 form to 10 dependents to get that tax break." "Jill, it's okay," the brunette said. "He's just having fun with you. Let it go." "Okay, I'm totally confused," Jill said. "Does he work here or not?" "Exactly," I said. "Exactly what?" Jill said. I think I literally saw her brain explode behind her bewildered, irritated eyes. She had no clue what was going on. She was drunker than me. She knew I was playing her, but she didn't even understand how, which made it even funnier to me. I looked at the smart brunette and said, "My name is Tommy, and I might only be a busboy in this casino, but I would sure like to buy you a drink." The brunette smiled at me and said, "My name is Annie." "Annie?" "Yes, Annie." "Well, Annie, I lied about one thing. I'm not really a busboy, but why don't you and I go somewhere else and get a drink? And leave my friends from work?" "I don't think so. And no offense, but you smell like you've been drinking for days. Your liver is screaming." Annie looked at me with a tad of disdain. It was weird, I could tell she wanted me. And yet, she despised me in the same moment. That gave off a very weird energy. Good girl wants the bad boy. The big bad wolf boy. I looked at her and laughed out loud. "Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You're turning me down for drinks. Yes, I am, she said. You're kind of already pushing it if you are aiming to be a drink container. I leaned in and said to Annie just so she could hear. That's too bad. Because I clean up quite nice. I bet you do, Annie replied. I bet you're this real hot mysterious guy who will make me fall in love with you. But I haven't had the best month of decision-making, and leaving with a hot, drunk guy at 6 o'clock in the evening to go to another bar to get a drink wouldn't crack the list as one of the smartest decisions I have ever made. Wow, what happened? I asked. I was drunk, but I knew this girl had a lot on her plate. No one comes out and gets that real right off the bat unless there. Are you fed up? I asked. Annie stopped and looked at me and said, I am. I'm fed up. Exactly. Me too, I said. I'm going to leave you ladies alone. I'm going to grab a drink and make my way over to the sports book. No one asked you to stop bothering us, Jill said. Someone wanted me to, I said, winking at Annie. Then I turned around, walked away and went to the sports book. That was the last I remembered until I heard a guy say, Hey man, you can't sleep here. You need to go up to your hotel room. I opened my eyes. I was still drunk. The room was spinning, but I wasn't sick. What time is it? 9 o'clock nighttime, the man said. He was an older gentleman in his 60s. I mean it, he continued. No sleeping. I got you, Pops. I reached in my pocket and grabbed a 20. I took it out and put it in the guy's shirt pocket. Thanks for the wake-up call. My night is about to begin. And boy did it. The next 48 hours were mostly a blur. I do remember kissing a clown, riding in a helicopter, eating hummus and other appetizers at a kosher restaurant, and watching Carrot Top's Las Vegas show. Twice. I remembered a few other things, but one thing I knew for sure: I never had intimate relations with anyone in that blur of a night. I didn't want that. I only wanted to forget losing Maya, and the more I drank, the more I couldn't even see anymore. I remember talking and it was pitch black. I remembered crying out for someone to hear me. Then I just remembered blackness, a hot velvety blackness. Feeling things, but it was black. As if I was being moved, but I was too tired to move. Too tired to say, let me go. The fade was slow. The fade was long. The fade paralyzed me. All I knew was I was out. Chapter 4. The only reason I woke up when I did was because the pavement was burning my skin through my clothes. I heard laughter, voices, footsteps, and cars whizzing by. I felt the sun beating down on my face like the business end of a clothes iron. I didn't want to, but I opened my eyes and was shocked to discover that I was lying next to a busy street with people walking around me like I was a trash can. At least no one had stepped on me. And at least I wasn't in the gutter. There was that. I wasn't just on any road either. I was on Las Vegas Boulevard. Somehow I had been either thrown to the sidewalk or I'd passed out on it. It was one or the other, because I didn't feel like I got beat up. I was thinking that I was thrown out of a casino because I must have awakened quickly since my nap on the sidewalk, due to the temperature of the pavement and the sun's intensity that felt like an infrared heat treatment. That ruled out passing out on the sidewalk, otherwise I'd still feel drunk. But I was hungover as hell. Boy was I. I had a yen for Alka-Seltzer over ice. That's how bad the hangover was. But I wasn't drunk, even though I did smell the stink of alcohol oozing from the pores of my skin, and my mouth tasted like 10 kinds of booze all mixed together with an old dog's breath. How did I know? I was having major withdrawals for alcohol. I had a raging headache, but I was alert and sober. Someone, or a group of someones, had thrown me out on the street. Probably. Didn't too long to wake up with the sun and the outside noises. People were walking around me with disdain, as if I was a homeless person. Was I homeless? I tried to get my bearings. I lived somewhere. Yes, I did. I tried to clear my head and think straight. I struggled to my feet and I realized I had been completely robbed. There was nothing in my pockets. There was nothing but some stupid ticket. I wasn't even sure if I was wearing the same clothes. For one thing, I didn't recognize my clothes. But I took out this ticket. It was bet sheet for a sports book at one of the smaller casinos called Magma. Somehow I'd managed to make an 8-team $1,000 parlay on a variety of sports last night. Great, I'd just thrown away grand. But then again, I'd been robbed, so I was out all my winnings and the original 500 simoleons I'd started with. All I had was this damn sports betting ticket that couldn't possibly be a winner. I'd picked the platypuses to win. What sport do the platypuses even play? Was a sports addict and I didn't know that answer. I'd obviously made a bet. That was ill-advised and for a lot of money. I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know anything. I don't think it was humanly possible to drink as much as I did over the past 48 hours and not die of alcohol poisoning 10 times over. Thank you, werewolf powers. I needed to start somewhere to try to get my stuff back. So I walked down Las Vegas Boulevard and made my way back to my hotel, the Riviera. That much I remembered. I wasn't sure how many nights it had been since I arrived in Vegas, but soon I was going to find out. I had nothing in my pocket, so I needed to start with talking to a desk clerk. There was a line at the front desk with people trying to get a room. The concierge desk was busy too. I decided to impose my will. I was a filthy mess. I'd awakened on the street just 20 minutes ago, for crying out loud. I went to the front of the line and called out, "Can someone help me? Already have a room." I guess that was the key phrase, because the second I said it, the floor manager was on my case. He was a pudgy Asian gentleman. He walked over to me and gave me the once-over and said, "How can I help you?" "I don't have my room key." I figured I'd start there. "Please show me your ID and I can get you the key," the man said. "I don't have anything on me. I was robbed last night." "You think?" The manager seemed puzzled, almost as if he wasn't quite believing me. I needed to get real with this guy or I wasn't going to ever see if at least I left my keys in the room. "Please believe me," I said. "I'm not a liar. I need to start somewhere. I need to get back to my room. My car is in your valet lot. It's a Mustang. Classic. Hanging from the visor is a picture of me with my sweet Maya." The man looked me in the eye and I gave him as honest a look I could. I was desperate. I needed some help. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Tommy Jenkins." The man typed in my name and said, "There is no Tommy Jenkins that currently has a room with us." "Okay, maybe my room expired." "Ah yes, here we are. Your room expired yesterday. Where do you put people's things if they left them in their room?" "What are you looking for?" the man asked. "My life," I answered back. "I've had a rough week. My fiancé was killed in a car accident and I just need my stuff and then I can move on." The gentleman nodded at me and said, "On the other side of the hotel is our lost and found. Whenever someone leaves everything in their room, we have a special area in the back of the lost and found where we keep all the guests' stuff in separate bins so everything stays together." "That's great," I said. "Which direction do I walk?" "Hold on. A problem we're going to have is you need an ID to get your stuff. I'm not sure if your fiancé dying in a car crash will tug at the heart strings of Max." "Who's Max?" "Max is the guy who runs Lost and Found. My guess is it won't." "So what should I do?" "Tell him to call me. My name is Carl." He paused and said, "I'll vouch for you." "Really?" I asked. "Thank you." I didn't know why he was being so nice to me. Maybe he wanted my smelly ass to get out of his check-in lobby as soon as possible. I didn't care. He was helping me. I walked to the other side of the casino and it took a while, but I finally found the Lost and Found. They practically hid it from everyone. There was a guy sitting at a very large desk in front of an open door where they must keep the bigger items and the bins like the manager was talking about. I walked up to Max. His name was on his hotel badge. "Hi," I said. I was about to go into my spiel when the man stopped me from speaking. "Are you Tommy?" "Yes." "Okay. Go back there and get your stuff." I was shocked that was all it took. "You remember your room number, right?" "Yeah, it was 313. Tell the guy in the back that he will take you to your stuff." They had a lot of guys around here. I walked through the open door and there was a little old man back there. He was no taller than 5 feet 2 inches. "Come with me," the man said. He took me to an additional room where the bins were. I saw a bin that had a bottle of vodka, 2 packs of cigarettes, and an MMA magazine. I knew it was mine. Sure enough, the bin was labeled 313 and with my name on it too. They were organized back here. I got to the bin and looked inside to see what else was inside. I was praying. At least my car keys fell to the bottom of it. I looked inside the bin and saw no clothes, no keys, no phone, and no wallet. Crap, I was no better off than I had been 20 minutes ago on the fucking street. Except for now I had a vodka bottle and 2 packs of cigarettes. I looked up at the old man in the face from my hunched down position. I gave him a desperate look. A look that clearly showed how at the end of the rope I was. Is this it? I asked. No, we have your phone, wallet and keys in a safe up front. Seriously? I asked the little man. How do you know that? Well, do you see this sticker on the side of the bin? It had the letters K, W, and P. That's the big three. Most folks are coming back mainly for those three, so we take the care of these items seriously by putting them in a safe up front. Gratitude flooded me and stupidly I shook the guy's hand, pumping it up and down like he was a one-armed bandit machine. Bless you, sir. He grinned. I call the big three items every man needs the trifecta. Every man needs his trifecta. I was extremely excited and hopeful that they had my critical stuff, but I wouldn't have relief until I had all three items in my hand. I sighed and took the items out of my bin and I put them in trash bags that the lost and found guy had provided. I went to the front with my stuff in a white trash bag. The guy up front already had my stuff out and ready to hand over. They were all three things I needed to survive in Vegas or anywhere. Thank God. The little man was right. They had all my stuff. I was just having trouble trusting people lately. Who would have thought that my wallet, keys and phone had survived the final cleanout of a hotel room by the housekeeping staff? Integrity. That was what I had found in Sin City. No, not mine. Other people's. I had to sign a couple of papers. I grabbed my trash bag and put the trifecta in my front pants pocket. I didn't want to go through my wallet on the casino floor. So I went to a cafe that was to the right of the lost and found. I ordered an orange juice and looked through my wallet. I didn't expect to find any money in it, let alone my ID and bank card. Thank goodness. I about cried. My wallet had everything in it and was filled with all the cash I remembered having. I counted my cash while it was still in my wallet because it almost looked like too much money was in there. My fat wallet contained $3,455. How did I make an 18 parlay bet for a cool grand? I'd had about this much before my 48-hour binge even started. I hardly used any of my own money. How in the hell did I place that horrendous bet? Maybe I won the $1,000 doing something else? I did remember a happy stint at a craps table, but surely I didn't win $1,000 and then turn around and bet it all on a goofy 18 parlay that had less than a 0.05% chance of winning. I hardly had any idea what happened in the last 49 hours. It was like I could only remember scraps and moments. Could have said and done anything during that period. It almost reminded me of being a werewolf. My human consciousness would pass out when I turned, much like passing out drunk. In one form I was a wolf doing God knows what. In the other I was a man who was wild and reckless. Both weren't exactly keeping too safe. My head was pounding. I leaned back in my chair and decided to take out my cell phone. My phone was dead. I needed a charger. I hadn't brought one with me. I honestly didn't think I'd be in Las Vegas anywhere near this long, and the trip was definitely on the spur of the moment. I walked over to the cashier in the cafe and asked, "Where is the gift shop? Need to find a charger for my phone." The lady cashier said, "There is a gift shop across the casino." I thanked her for her help. I left the cafe and found the gift shop. They did have a phone charger that fit my phone. It was shockingly expensive, but I paid for it in cash. I left the gift shop and looked over at the registration desk. Stay one more night? I didn't feel like going home just yet. That amazed even me. I fucking woke up on the sidewalk this morning. What the hell was wrong with me? Why couldn't I pack it up and head home? I didn't even want to think what this was doing to Josiah as far as him worrying about me. I knew what was wrong with me. I had to stay. I wasn't ready to face the real world yet. I wanted to stay here and play make-believe. Pretend that nothing had happened. But something did happen, and I was going to have to face the real world at some point. Just not today. I was nauseated but still hungry. I felt hungover and I was ignoring my emotional pain. I couldn't believe I was actually craving a drink, even in the stinking hungover condition I was in. Withdrawals are withdrawals. I walked and found a bench against the wall of the casino. I pulled my vodka bottle out of the trash bag and downed a third of it in one gulp. It was a pretty good-sized bottle of vodka. I leaned back and closed my eyes, hoping this would get rid of my hangover. The hair of the dog that bit ya. I decided to go and wait in the line to get a room. I was pretty buzzed from downing the third of that vodka bottle. I need to pace myself better. I was Passing out way too much. It's crazy I need to drink just to feel normal. It took about 10 minutes, but I got to the front and got a room for one more night. The desk clerk gave me a funny look, but obviously the important thing was that my credit card worked. I went up to the room. My room number was 232. I decided to charge my phone and then head down to the buffet. But as I was plugging in the charger, something took over my body. I ran to the bathroom and spent the next hour throwing up periodically until my dry heaves were enough to make me want to pass out. I crawled over to the bed, and I laid there and closed my eyes. I dozed off a little and then I woke up feeling like I had been hit by a truck, physically and emotionally. I physically ached from the pain of living without Maya. All of the flickers of the accident and its aftermath flitted through my mind. Wished they would go away. My body hurt and was burned from my sidewalk nap. I ached and I hurt and I didn't know what to do, so I called the only person who remotely knew what I was feeling. I went to my cell phone, which was charging on the wall, and turned it on. I waited a couple of minutes, then my phone started making all sort of sounds, alerting me of voicemails, emails, Facebook messages, and text messages. The only thing it didn't tell me was how many missed calls I had since it had gone dead. And judging by the amount of messages and missed calls, this phone had been dead for a couple of days. I rolled over in a fetal position on the bed. I didn't think I have ever allowed myself to be in this position. I'd always looked at the fetal position as weak, but when you hurt to the degree that I did, it just felt right to do. To protect myself from more of this shattering reality. Holy shit, I've never been this broken inside. I looked at my phone. There were 15 missed voicemails from Josiah. Shit, I couldn't imagine what I had put that kid through in the last 3 days. That's how long I had been in Vegas. I had decided on that number 3. Made the most sense. I called Josiah. It was the afternoon, so I thought he should pick up. It rang twice and then I heard, "Where the hell are you?" "I'm so sorry, bro. I'm in Las Vegas." "For how long?" "The last 3 days." "Fucking Tommy." I could hear a relieved sigh come from Josiah. "I'm okay, bro. I'm pretty indestructible," I said, trying to assure Josiah I could take care of myself. Josiah didn't know I was a werewolf. I wanted to keep that from him as long as I could. I didn't want him to see that world if I could help it. "We all can die," Josiah said. "You and I learned that the hard way." "Why are you in Las Vegas?" "I don't know, Josiah." I didn't want to show my vulnerability. Not to Josiah. I was supposed to be his role model, his mentor, not this crapshoot of a broken man. "Are you okay, Tommy? You're not going to do anything stupid, are you?" Josiah sounded extremely worried. I was quiet. I already had done some pretty stupid things since I'd been here. "Tommy, please don't hurt yourself," Josiah said with an earnestness that he had never granted, not at that level. Pleading. He was hurting. I was hurting. "You shouldn't worry about me, Josiah." "I know. I should be worried about Las Vegas." Josiah got me. That's why I love the kid. "Josiah, I'm coming home tomorrow. I'm going to chill out tonight. Maybe see a show. Right now I'm going to get sleep." "Okay." "Josiah." "Yeah, Tommy. I'm sorry for making you worry about me. It kind of sucked the last couple days not knowing anything. I'm not going to lie to you. I almost went to the authorities." "You didn't though, right?" "No, I was about a day away from doing that." "You're a grown man. You have no one to answer to. But it's not about accountability. It's about friendship. Would just hope you'd be considerate enough to at least let me know you're okay." "I'm sorry, Josiah. I'll remember to do that from now on." Josiah exhaled and then had a little bit of nervous laughter. "Josiah, we will get through this. We will do it together." "Okay, man." Josiah seemed done with the conversation. I was okay with it. He knew I was safe. Man, I was a jerk to make the poor kid go through that so shortly after his entire family had died. Chapter 5. So I had one last night in Vegas. How insane did I want to get? How should I live it up? This was the last chance I would have to immerse myself in Vegas. For a while. Or should I just drive home and be there for Josiah? "I'm sorry, kid." I was feeling like I still had more piss and vinegar left in me, even with me waking up in the street. I had to admit I felt real horny and rowdy. I wanted to go to a gentleman's club, but I knew that would be trouble. Some of those clubs, I'd heard that anything goes in the shows. I wasn't ready to be intimate with anyone for any reason on any level. Didn't mean I won't flirt. I did that instinctively. But I loved Maya so much that the memory of her was all I needed right now. Honestly, I knew what was itching at me. I hadn't been in a skirmish yet. Usually there were plenty of assholes to get in scuffles with in Vegas, but I'd switched gears once I got into town. I'd gone from wanting to tear apart the city to wanting to escape inside the city. I'd let Vegas suck me into its black hole of gambling and drinking. But as of yet, not any fighting on the street. I wanted that. I could taste it, and smell it, and passionately want it, to bust up some random guys with no agenda other than to use up testosterone, adrenaline, and the pain that stabbed my heart. I knew I couldn't fight legally, so I was better off sticking to the escaping inside the city part. It would suck if Josiah had to bail me out of jail should things go amiss in a street fight. I knew I didn't want to kill anyone. I was just about as restless as a werewolf could get without his one true love. I knew I should go to bed, and I imagined that I had about 6 hours of sleep in the last 24 hours just by passing out at different places. I knew if I went to bed, all I would think about was Maya, and I would find my way to that fetal position that I hated so much. The position that, by its metaphor, was all about defeat. I showered, then put on the dirty clothes I had from the night before. I took out the ticket and laid it on top of the dresser. I wasn't even sure I was going to waste any time seeing a bet that outrageous hit. Platypuses? Really? I was planning on buying an outfit as soon as I could and get out of this yuppie outfit, which I was certain wasn't mine. Stank rather badly. I needed to find clothes that fit me, and fast. I went out of my hotel room into the downtown feel of the Riviera. This hotel been decorated to look like the 1970s. In fact, I thought it was the same carpet. Right across the street was a discount clothing store. I ran across the street and bought myself 3 t-shirts that didn't say Las Vegas on them. I thought I'd found the only 3 shirts that didn't have the city name sprayed across the chest. I found some basketball shorts to wear. I knew it wasn't the greatest outfit, but at least I wasn't wearing clothes that were sweaty, stinking, and had God knows what else on them. I decided to just toss the clothes in the store's bathroom trash can. All right. I got in my shower. I had on clean clothes. It was around noon and I needed to decide on what I wanted to do on my last day and night in Vegas. Gamble or drink. Or maybe both. It was a combination I had found to be very profitable a couple days back. I wasn't in the mood to sit at a table for hours on end. It was almost noon now. I decided to walk to an area where there seemed to be better and more lively bars. My stomach growled loudly. Damn, when had I last eaten? Couldn't remember. I was walking by a coffee shop to get to a bar when I recognized a woman sitting alone outside the coffee shop. Hey, I said. Don't I know you? She looked at me puzzled and said, I don't think so. Are you sure? I asked. Then I remembered who she was. She was the brunette from a couple of nights ago who had been sitting at the table with 2 other girls. I had been pretty drunk, but I remembered her vibing me. It didn't matter if she didn't remember because she was vibing me now. I'm sure I'd remember you, she said. Really? I said. That's kind of sad. I would think I would have made a better impression. Don't be hard on yourself. I've been drunk for 4 nights in a row. Don't tell anyone that. I'm at a work conference for my company, and I get a per diem. Nice. What do you do? I asked. I'm in sales for a copier company. I would hate to do sales. I'm not the greatest with people. She didn't seem to want to talk about work. Okay, if we met, she said, flirting with me. Do you remember my name? I thought about it and laughed. No, I don't remember. I don't think you ever gave it to me. I certainly did, Tommy. Then she gave me a giant smile, indicating that she knew who I was and that she certainly did remember me. You do remember me? I said. Yes, I remember you. So what is my name? I thought really hard. All I really remembered doing was messing with some platinum blonde. I think her name started with an A. Alice? I didn't want to say it out loud. What if I was wrong? I didn't want to be wrong with a name like Alice. As I kept trying to think what her name was, she kept talking. So you discovered I have a weakness for coffee in the morning when nursing a mild hangover. Does coffee even help? I asked. It does a tiny bit if you have a mild hangover. If you have a major one, you're out of luck with coffee. You need to ride it out with aspirin and a very quiet room with a tall glass of ice water. I never craved coffee when nursing a hangover. If anything, the taste of Coffee would probably make me nauseated. I was still standing in the road, facing my brunette friend. May I join you? People on the street were having to walk around me and I was causing a human traffic jam. You can, but only if you can remember my name, she answered. Are you serious? I'm very serious. You were just complaining that you hoped you would have made a better impression. Well, that's how I feel now. Tell me my name. What the hell is her name? Aggie. I looked her in the eye and I had the urge to sing. The sun will come out tomorrow. Then it came to me. Annie. I yelled it way louder than I intended. I was still a little off from this morning. Very good. You've earned your seat, Annie said. I'm not sure how much longer I can stay. I need to get back to the conference and do my work thing. But I am impressed and now a tad flattered that you remembered, and that you remembered with such enthusiasm. She paused. How did you remember? I laughed. I use mnemonics to remember people's names. I attached a song to yours. Oh God. Not the Tomorrow song from the stage play Annie. My whole life, people have been doing that to me. Well, my name is Tommy and I grew up with the moniker Pinball Wizard from the rock opera Tommy. School bullies screaming at me, Tommy, can you hear me? And so on. Of course I kicked their asses for their trouble and so I grew to love my name. At least we have something in common to commiserate about, Annie said, blushing and laughing in this genuine way. Getting teased about our names. Annie's a nice name, I said. It's innocent and sweet. Almost like you're the quintessential girl next door. I was a little embarrassed and she'd caught me in a moment of vulnerability as I realized that I was attracted by the safety of her girl next door appeal and had let her know it. She saw my little twitch or the slight eye glance that tipped my hand that I liked her. I hated when I did that. Let a girl I barely knew discover that I felt something personal about her. Even just a way to remember her name. Tried not to fall into my dick bravado but struggled to remain genuine and down to earth in front of a nice girl. And she did seem nice. Tommy is a good name too. That's cool that you fought for people not to make fun of it. I guess now that she had seen it, my vulnerability and my real self, this was a test to see what kind of person she was. I have an idea, she said. Why don't I meet you tonight? Tonight? Yeah, unless you're going home from your own business trip. I laughed. Going home. That was funny. Business trip. That was even funnier. Liked her more by the moment. Scary but true. I plan on staying one more night. Perfect. Why don't we meet around 7 somewhere? My conference will be completely over and I could celebrate. In fact, I want to celebrate. Sure, I said. Why don't we meet right here? I looked around. Seemed to be at the epicenter of all the action. Sounds good to me, she said, a gleam in her eye. Maybe you can find some other clothes to wear, she joked. You don't like this look? I asked. This is my weekend warrior look. Come as you are then. I just want to have fun. Annie gave me a really big, sexy smile. Oh. I struggled to say. I'll see what I can scavenge up to wear. Okay, it's a date then, Annie said. Oh shit. No, it's not. The second she said it, I realized she wasn't someone who wanted to party with me and drink and hang out. She was someone who was looking at this as a date. I didn't know what to say to her. I didn't want to sleep with her. I mean, she was really pretty, but I couldn't even contemplate that with the kind of emotional pain I was feeling. I couldn't help it. I was still loyal to Maya. Even though I liked Annie, the all-American girl with the dark hair. No, it's not a date, I said very carefully. I tried to say it in a way that it didn't come across as aggressive. Okay, she said. She seemed embarrassed by my statement. It's not a date? Look, I said. My fiancé recently passed away, so I would like to go out for drinks, but that's about it. I hope you can respect that. I paused. I am not looking for a rebound lady to heal me, just taking in a bit of companionship at its face value, and I do value it. Wow, I laid that out there plain and simple. If you're telling the truth about what you said, I completely respect that. And I am glad you told me, otherwise I would be wondering why you didn't kiss me. I wouldn't lie about something like that. That would be a little sick and twisted. I think I came here to just let Las Vegas gut punch me, or I would gut punch it right back. Somewhere in Sin City there was you, a perfectly congenial girl who made me smile and who I want to sit next to in the nice, cool bar and have some company for an evening. In the face of all this tragedy, That is my loss of love and my uncertain future. You are an oasis of normalcy. Holy crap, I was spewing. But maybe this was what death did to a man. Made you ooze out the burden to the first friendly face. She looked at me and her face turned to sadness. I believe you. I'm so sorry. Don't be. You didn't kill her. That's an awful thing to say. Annie seemed really put off now. I smiled at her and said, okay, I sort of suck on how to talk about it, but I'm working on how to deal with this on a daily basis. That one true love is gone, evaporated into the night. You're one of the first people I've talked to about this. I'm still processing it all. Forgive me for stumbling on my words. There you go. Nice and honest. You're just being human, she said. It must be hard. I can't imagine dealing with something like that. If you don't mind me asking, how did she pass? She and her parents were all killed in a car accident, I said plainly. I was in the vehicle right behind them. If she was going to ask such a direct question, I was going to give her a direct answer. Oh my God, that is horrible. Look, maybe we shouldn't do this. It's all too soon and all too weird. Nonsense. You need a night out to just, forget. I would love to hang out with you tonight. You seem like a cool guy and pretty straightforward. Like that because I'm the same way. I know you are, I said. That's why I asked you. Meet back here at Chapter 6. Okay, I guess I had a drinking buddy tonight. That didn't mean I wouldn't start without her. I went into a bar on the other side of the road. It was really clean and the place had some class. That made me laugh. I was the epitome of classiness since I'd been to Sin City. I sat down on the stool and got the bartender's attention. He caught my eye and eagerly rushed over to me as if he didn't get a lot of orders during the day or this early. What would you like, sir? He laid a napkin in front of me. Very classy. Who was I? The Queen of England? I'll have a double tequila. All right. The bartender gave me the once-over and nodded his head. I must have really had 5 o'clock shadow. My face did feel a little itchy from not shaving. Do you have pretzels or something? I asked. I'll see what I can find in the back. My stomach had only had alcohol in it for days. A double tequila was usually my first drink of choice. It didn't waste any time to say, hello, Mr. Buzz. Man. The bartender gave me the double shot and started to do the whole lime salt thing, but I told him not to bother. I was just going to pound it like fruit punch. I told him, just keep them coming. His left eyebrow went up a bit and he nodded slightly. I downed the tequila. Maybe a beer chaser? I said. Got it. What beer would you like? Whatever, I don't care. The bartender drafted me a beer from the tap and said, all right, here is it. Whatever, I don't care glass of beer. I like this guy. He was funny. I leaned back on the bar stool, which wasn't too smart. I was still a little shaky. I caught my balance and decided there will be no leaning again. A soccer game on the big screen TV was garnering a lot interest in it from people in the bar. It surprised me because everybody cared about this game. You would think they were staring at an end-of-the-world newsbreak. I decided to ask the bartender what was the deal with the soccer game. Hey buddy, I said. What soccer game is this? Hell if I know. They all place bets on it and asked me to put it on. They are probably not even fans. It's a slow sports day. Not much to bet on. I wouldn't know, I said. I didn't bet too much on sports. I didn't like to do it because I bet with my heart and not with my sense. I'm more of a poker guy. Really? The bartender said. The real money is betting on sports. It's fast. And it's reliable. There's always another game to bet on. Spoken like a true gambler, I said. There is a reason why I live in Vegas. The bartender laughed and went into the back. He came back with a bag of pretzels and handed me the whole bag. Knock yourself out, he said. How about another double shot? I said. This time I'll take the trimmings. Huh. The bartender didn't catch on what I was saying. I'll take the salt and lime. This routine went on for about an hour. I drank a lot of tequila. I looked around the bar. I saw a clock on the wall. 1:15 in the afternoon. Damn, it's too early to be this drunk. I didn't want to be too drunk when I met up with Annie later, because I can be a jerk when I have had too much. I decided to go outside and smoke a cigarette. I needed some air. I was about to do something I knew I was going to regret later. I was going to drunk dial Josiah. He was the only person I could really talk to at the moment. I took out my cell and found Josiah in my contacts. Pressed call. The phone rang 7 times and then the dope let the call go to voicemail. Wasn't a voicemail person. I hated talking on the damn things. But I was drunk and I had a lot of burden on my heart. The second the beep sounded, I was off and running with the most pitiful voicemail I would ever leave. Hey Josiah. It's me, Tommy. I was trying to talk to you right now but you didn't pick up. Dumbass. Hey, I miss your family, man. I miss your parents. Miss Maya so much, man. I can't imagine living this life without her. You can take that any way you like. But she was my everything. She was my light. Now, all there is darkness. Tears were dripping from my eyes as I stood outside the bar, smoking and talking. I quit talking and pressed end on the phone. Holy shit, I was sloppy drunk now. I was wobbly. I got my balance and sat on a bench and just felt the sun come down on me. I tried to let the sun soothe me, to take care of me. I needed someone to take care of me. I'd never had parents. I'd never had anything until I had Maya. She had even come fully equipped with parents and a great brother, who was closer than any blood kin. Not that I had any but my grandma, who didn't like me much. Now I was back to having nothing. No one. I couldn't control my pain and I did something that was very frowned upon in the Karnai community. You don't howl in public place where there are mostly humans. It sort of freaks them out. But I didn't know what else to do. Howled out loud. I howled long, loud, and throaty. I howled until I passed out. Hey, you alive? I looked up and it was a police officer. Yeah, I'm alive. Well, you can't sleep out here. We can get you a cab to take you back to your hotel. You need to pay for it, but we can get you one. No, I'm good. Well, you can't sleep out here. I got you. Sorry, officer. I do have a room at the Riviera. I never knew how to talk to the police. If you sound too familiar, they will usually put you in your place. I also wasn't going to kiss no one's ass, but I respected their job. I'm getting up and will go right to my hotel, I said to him. Is that okay? All right. I stood up and looked around and something caught my eye. There was a motorcycle lot right out in the open on Las Vegas Boulevard. If it's cool with you, I'm going to check out that motorcycle shop. Fine. But if I see you sleeping outdoors again, I'm going to cite you. You have a hotel room. Use it. Got it. Have a good evening, I said, trying not to slur my words. The policeman finally walked away. I looked back at the motorcycle shop. Is this destiny? I'd had a bike when I was 17 but had totaled it while dirt biking. Mainly it had been because I had a motorcycle and not a dirt bike. And I treated it as such, pulling an Evel Knievel type of stunt off a small cliff. I'd ended up limping home. It had been a while since that near-death experience in my youth. I took the crosswalk over to the bike shop. I went into the shop and looked around. All the bikes I liked were like 15 grand and that was way too much. I left disappointed and still very drunk. I looked at my phone. I was supposed to meet that girl in a couple of hours. Realized I didn't even have her phone number or know her last name. I should get some threats. If not for her, for myself. This was Las Vegas and I wanted to look my best. I might end up too hammered to remember anything, but I wanted to at least look good doing it. Whatever. Chapter 7. It was nearing 7 o'clock and I was going to head on down to meet that girl, Annie. I was all showered up. I'd bought some cool threads from a nicer outlet store. I got some nice fitting blue jeans, a white cotton shirt, and I decided to splurge on a $400 leather jacket. It was nicer than the one I had in my car. Fitted real nice. The only thing that would make my look even more awesome would be a bike. So, if I couldn't have the motorcycle I wanted, I would at least have the leather jacket I wanted. It was slick. It was classy. It was totally me. I hadn't had a drink since earlier. I was a little tired, but I drank a couple of Red Bulls and I caught my second wind. Or was I on my third wind? I forgot. I had no idea how my liver was holding up. I didn't know. I didn't care. Didn't think werewolves could die of liver failure, but I would continue to test that theory. I finished primping and left my hotel room. I saw Annie waiting right outside the coffee shop. She looked incredible. She was wearing a long summer dress that was very tropical. Her brunette hair made her look like an islander. I liked the look a lot. I hadn't realized how voluptuous she was. She was quite large in the chest region. You look incredible, I said. I wasn't a giant boob guy, but hell it wasn't like I didn't like them. Oh, this old thing, she said teasingly. I saw it in the window and I had to get it. It makes me crave coconuts. I'll bet it does. Are you hungry? I asked. Hold on. Let me look at you. Wow, you clean up pretty good. That jacket is off the hook. It should be, I said. It wasn't cheap. Well, my dress was. So it was 50% off. I think they saw me coming and tried to jack the price out of my price range. Little did they know, I cleaned up at a poker table a couple of days ago. Big poker player? Not a big one. Apparently a lucky one. I smiled at Annie. She seemed to have brought a lot of energy to the date. Hopefully it would be infectious because I had been drinking and shopping all day. So let me ask you again, I said. Are you hungry? I'm starving. I haven't eaten since we saw each other this morning. Well, you and I have something in common. I haven't eaten either. We can dine the classy route and go sit in a nice restaurant and pay double what you normally pay anywhere else in the continental US. Or we can hit a buffet and just go to town. Although going to town at a buffet would feed my animal side, I would like to sit down and have a nice dinner in a relaxing spot. Don't worry. I'll pay for my own. You made it clear this wasn't a date. Well, I would like to treat tonight. You're the only friend I have made up. Here, and I got a pocket full of cash. Let's have some fun. I'm in. Annie gave me a big, beautiful smile. She had nice teeth. She couldn't have met me at a worse time, though. But she seemed real cool. Relaxed. I liked that. First things first, I said. Where is a classy restaurant? They are all around us. Just pick one. You know, I have no clue what is a classy restaurant and what isn't. I think IHOP is a classy restaurant because a person serves the food to you. So why don't you pick one and I'll follow? Well, what are you craving? I thought about and I was craving pasta, something awful. I wouldn't mind if we went Italian, I said. Cool. There's a place a couple streets up. I have passed it a dozen times this week and wondered if their food was any good. But is it classy? If I'm going to pay $35 for some fettuccine Alfredo, I want some dude serenading me at the table, Pavarotti style. I don't know about all of that, but it looks nice from the outside. I like the ambience it gives even as you pass by it. You're real big on how things make you feel, I said. Don't we have to be? Our likes and dislikes are so connected to our emotions. It's almost impossible to separate the two. I've been told all my life that I'm impulsive, never quite sure what it meant other than I don't really care what people think. Also, I usually do what I want. My rule is if I'm not hurting you, stay out of my way, because I promise to stay out of your way. Sounds very libertarian. I don't know too much about politics. If that word describes how I think, then I guess I'm a librarian. Libertarian, Annie said, correcting me. Whatever, I said. I knew the difference between a libertarian and a librarian. It was just funny to me sometimes to play the dumb jock role, even though I was anything but. I was just about to say, let's go to Annie when a couple walked by holding hands in a way that everyone knew they were in love. It stopped me in my tracks and reminded me very quickly of the pain that I was avoiding. I stared at the couple and my eyes moistened a little. Couldn't stay in Vegas and get drunk for the rest of my life. I didn't have enough money for that, and what would Maya think if she somehow knew? Could she look down from heaven and see me? Was there a heaven? I spaced out a little. Do you know them? Annie asked as she noticed me staring at the couple. No, I said, snapping back to the present. Just reminds me of her. That's all. I was pretty sure Annie knew who I was talking about, but she had the sense to allow the conversation to stop there. You ready to hit up this Italian place? Sure am. We were off to the Italian restaurant. Chapter 8. The restaurant's name was Alfredo's. I loved Alfredo sauce, probably my favorite of all sauces. So a place that called itself Alfredo's better have the best Alfredo sauce I had ever tasted. I took a deep breath and knew I needed a drink fast. The loss of Maya was starting to take over again. Boy, I didn't want to cry in front of all these people. Not in front of Annie especially. It was hard to not ache over Maya. It didn't matter how drunk I got. The pain of losing her was unbearable. I must have been wearing what I was feeling on my face because Annie's voice got really tender. You okay? Annie asked me. I'm just peachy. Let's find the hostess so we can get a table. I looked around and there seemed to be more than enough tables available. This place must be really expensive. There are 100,000 people outside walking the streets of Las Vegas, yet this place had a total of 12 people in it. The food was either really bad or really expensive. I hoped it was the latter. The hostess came over and she seated us near the back. The lighting was dim, and there was romantic Italian music playing over the speaker. There was no live opera singing at the table, but I had to admit the place was classy. They're sure making this hard not to feel like a date, Annie remarked and swept her hands over the table with the wine bottle with a lit candle, the bud vase with the red rose and the checkered tablecloth. Don't think of it as romantic, I joked. It's straight out of that silly scene from Lady and the Tramp. She laughed as I pulled out her chair and she sat down. It's good to know that you're a gentleman, even when you're not on a date, Annie said in a flirtatious way. She was indeed a pistol. I sat down on my side of table. The table wasn't that big. I was across from Annie, but we were so close that I could smell her breath, minty with a strong stank of alcohol, which for some reason didn't bother me at all. Sort of made me feel a connection with her, that she wasn't going to judge me for drinking. With the meal, of course. The hostess handed us our menus and told us about the specials. None of the specials seemed too appetizing. I said thank you and the waitress left our table to wait on another table. Buried my face in the menu. I was avoiding eye contact with Annie, which was hard because she only made eye contact when she spoke. She was that cool, with just insanely bad timing. I was a drunk werewolf in mourning. The waitress came over again. Hello, how are you folks today? May I start you off with some house wine? Fine and sure, Annie said, answering both of the waitress's questions. I looked at Annie and I said, that sounds good to me. I hadn't had a wine buzz yet today. Bring it on. The waitress looked at me like I was low class to make such a statement inside this fine eating establishment, like she didn't know what was happening to her patrons after they ordered wine after wine at $8 a glass or $100 a bottle. Servers wanted to ignore that drinking was about getting drunk at its core and not typically about admiring the bouquet and the tang of the beverage or whatever, because it was their job to serve it, and the way they get paid was through tips. The waitress left the table and I thought I didn't make a new friend because of my inner city manners. Annie grinned at me. What? I said. Nothing, Tommy. You sure are your own man. Let's leave my masturbation habits out of this. I'm not sure that made any sense. What you said. I think you just wanted to shock me by saying the word masturbation. She may have been right. Maybe I was doing it, but I couldn't let her know that a guy like what a guy likes, I said, continuing my own private joke that I was pretty sure I was the only person to think it was funny. Again, I'm sure what that even means, Annie said. She looked me in the eye and was trying to figure me out. I'm pretty sure she had no clue about what kind of man I am. She was the type of girl who was intrigued by my bullshit. All my life, women got intrigued with my bullshit and tried to figure me out, with just one goal in mind. Every woman wanted to save me from myself. We are at the table. Let's change the subject from masturbation, Annie finally said, classy girl that she was. Sounds good to me. Annie paused and I knew something was on her mind. What's up? I said. Huh. Annie said. Annie now was the one in deep thought. It sort of threw me, because she hadn't been reflective all night. I looked at her and we made eye contact. What's wrong with you? I asked. Annie sighed and said, nothing, sweetie pie. Then Annie said, may I ask you a really personal question? Okay, I said. I'm usually up to talk about anything. How much did you love your fiancé? How much? I thought about and then said, can you really measure that? Well, tell me about you too. Tell me what happened. I'm sorry if that is straightforward, but I feel like if I'm going to hang out with you tonight, I need to at least know what makes you tick. And you can find that out by listening to me talk about a relationship I had with a woman who is no longer with us. You're right. That was wrong of me to ask you such a tender question. I'm sorry. We all have our secrets. Actually, I'll tell you, Annie. It would be my honor to share with you what a fantastic woman my fiancée Maya was. I'll tell you, if you truly want to. Here. If you can bear it, I think it would help me. Annie gave me the most genuine look of compassion I think I had ever seen, and then she said, I would love to hear. Tell me about her. I stared at Annie, and for the first time since we sat down, I looked directly in her eyes. Loving someone so much, it takes you away from the rat race and makes you human again. The good kind of humanity. You're no longer living on automatic reboot every day. You take in each moment and it means something special. And when a person is as wonderful as Maya was, it magnifies each situation. I fell in love with her more and more each day. It was real. It was raw. It was better than anything I ever imagined to be true. I was high on it. I was drunk on it. I was immersed in it. Everything I did, even my MMA fighting, felt like I did it for her. She was my champion, my savior, my reward for good behavior, my best hope for the future. She was my everything. I stopped because I was gushing and I felt too exposed. Wow, Annie said. I feel really guilty. Why? I asked. I believe you completely now. That you're telling the truth about everything. You didn't believe me? I was pretty insulted. I still thought there was a slim chance you were playing me. There are some real creeps out there that would say what you did just so I would have pity. Sex with them. You won't have to worry about that. I would hope not. You say this is just 10 days fresh from them calling the time of death in the hospital. I'm sorry for not believing you. I have a hard time trusting people. I guess that's okay. You don't know me. I've been drunk every time you have seen me. The fact that you trust me at all is amazing. Can I ask you a question about your relationship? Before I could answer, the waitress brought our wine. She poured us each a glass of wine of the house carafe. Should I leave the carafe? The waitress asked. Oh, please do, I said. There will be a by the bottle charge instead of by the glass. Fine with me, I said. Is it good wine? Yes. Very good. The grapes are grown in Tuscany from 100-year-old rootstock. And the winery makes this house label just for us. If you don't love it, tell me and I'll bring you something different. It's my favorite though, at the end of a long day of what I do for a living. Nice. Thanks very much. I'm sure we'll enjoy it. The waitress smiled at me. She seemed like she was an older, tougher woman who had seen some shit in her time. One of those days, huh? The waitress said to me. Something like that, I said. I was opening up to Annie and didn't need to bring the waitress into the conversation, though she apparently wanted to be in it. There was a lull in conversation as the waitress poured us each a glass and left the carafe. She waited for me to taste it and I swirled it in the glass, inhaled a bit, and drank it like I was on the Food Channel. It was good. Smooth and rich tasting. I nodded that I liked it and she left the table. So, what do you want to know exactly? I finally asked Annie when we were alone again. Was she the one? I mean, was she the love of your life? I got choked up when she asked that. I wasn't ready to hear that question. Yeah, Maya was definitely the one. Why was she? We fit like hand in glove. We were a perfect match. She knew me in a way that I have only shown a couple of people, and no one knew better than her. She knew what I needed and she was always there to make sure I had it, be it physical or emotional. You don't usually open up like this to people, do you, Tommy? I took a healthy sip of the wondrous wine. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? She nodded. So why are you in Las Vegas, Tommy? You're still in mourning. It's too soon for you to take this kind of trip. You need to be around people who love you, who know you, who care that you are hurting. Not strangers. Not me. I don't think you are a stranger anymore, I said, and she gave me a sparkling smile. I was touched that this virtual stranger read me so well. I'm okay, Annie, my new friend, I said. Let's have a good time tonight. I took a deep breath and downed my wine as if it was a cool glass of water on a hot summer day. Looked over at Annie and she did the same thing. So you're a big drinker? I said. I was the beer-chugging champion in my sorority. A sorority girl? Yep. Vice president of Phi Beta Beta 2006. College is where they teach drinking as a sport. Then we might need another carafe, I said, smiling. I didn't realize I was in the company of a pro drinker. I always thought I was pretty intense drinker, but I never won a contest. Don't wuss out now. You going to outdrink me or not? So that's what we did. We ate and drank for the next hour and a half. We talked a lot. It was like a life job interview. We just asked each other a ton of questions and gave long and detailed answers with no punches pulled, no hold barred, no self-censorship. As I chewed and wolfed down my amazing lasagna, she talked and ate delicately. I found out she lived on the other side of the country in Connecticut. I told her more about being an MMA fighter, that I held a theater arts degree, and admitted that I would pretty much say anything to anyone. I didn't have much of a filter. Most shit that I thought eventually came out my mouth, or got translated into fighting. And yes, we did our best to finish off not one, but 3 carafes of that Tuscan house wine. Being drunk on wine was different than hard alcohol. Hard alcohol hit you over the head like a bag full of bricks right out of the gate. But drinking wine sneaked up on you, and it was a total body drunkenness that I felt from head to toe. After wine and pasta and appetizers and a couple of desserts, I needed a big-ass nap. I yawned after I gave the waitress the check with the tip already on it. She got my usual 20%. But we still sat at the table. I didn't even know what I wanted to do next. Another yawn escaped. "Don't yawn," Annie said. "That can get very contagious. That will want to make me go back to the hotel with you and do things to you that would be life-changing." "Life-changing?" I asked. "You haven't been sexy with me at all tonight, and you are talking the life-changing talk." "Yes, life-changing talk," Annie said. "It would be more than sex." I waited for her to tell me how. "But that cannot happen, Tommy. You have made it very clear that you don't want to sleep with me, and we had a long conversation about Maya. Okay, I think this might be the drunkest I have been since college. When I stand up, will I fall down? I didn't say I didn't want to sleep with you. Look at you. You're gorgeous. Your body is an amusement park." "An amusement park? You have a lot going on. A guy could spend all day just examining your body." "Thanks, I think. So what are you saying? Did you change your mind about this being an actual date?" I looked at her and I felt horny, and I knew she was a sure thing. No one would. No. What happened here stayed here. Right? She was a very sensual woman, and my mind and body were at war with each other. Wisdom versus lust. But I was not ready. I'd never thought that could ever be possible with me and sex, to not be ready for the offering of a beautiful woman, and one whom I liked very much, despite only really knowing her for a few hours. But I was not ready to be that close to someone, to share myself with someone like that. Those parts of me still belonged to Maya. Before Maya, I had looked at sex as a game, a challenge, and even, yes, Dick, that I was a conquest. I wanted as much of it with as many women who would sleep with me. Then Maya happened. She halted me in my tracks. I looked at sex differently. She taught me that it was an expression of love. I then looked at sex like a gift to be shared and cared enough to give the woman pleasure. Before I took mine, an offering of my physical self to the one I loved, Maya. It was a liberating, freeing feeling to be that vulnerable in someone's presence. And to be that vulnerable made me feel stronger than I had ever been. The more tender I was with my lover Maya, the stronger I was in the ring. Annie cleared her throat. "Well," she asked, "is this a date or not?" I looked at Annie and I knew she wanted me. I knew that I needed to come straight out and make sure this didn't go any further. I smiled at Annie and said, "Under different circumstances we could have dated. But where I'm at is a harsh reality of loss, and the place I'm at in my head is like the devil's playground for pain and suffering. I know it wouldn't be good for anyone if we slept together. I can't have that kind of intimacy for a while. I'm sorry. May I please say that if things were different, you are the kind of woman who should be cherished slowly and tenderly, and loved for herself, not to fill a hole in a broken heart." Annie looked at me and had tears in her eyes. "That's beautiful." "Well, I'm not trying to say anything beautiful. I'm telling you what's on my heart. The raw truth. God, you're beautiful, Annie. You're funny, smart, sweet, and such a joy to talk to. You take companionship to this very intimate level of no head games and no pretense. In another time, another place, had I not known what I did with Maya, I would be in you and saying your name right now with a damn catch in my throat that you exist. Damn, you're intense. Such a turn on. It's like you're really alive. And it's probably the nicest rejection of my whole life. You've got something wild inside of you." She had no idea how wild I was. I was a freaking werewolf, for goodness sake. I need to throw some ice on this situation. "Okay, moving on, my friend," I said firmly. "What can two very drunk friends do in Las Vegas who only have a few hours left to spend with each other? With the likelihood they will never see each other again," she added. "I hope we do," I said. "When all of this is a gentler memory of my loss, I We'll remember that you were a breath of fresh air in Sin City. And that you listened and cared. And laughed and just about cried, too. Well, if you ever want to fly out to Connecticut, be sure to look me up. I don't see that ever happening, I said as drunk and honest as I could be. Because you would know me too well to start a relationship. Having all of this prior knowledge would give you a huge advantage in the relationship. Especially since you've seen me at my worst. Then this is our only night together, she said, more than a little sadly. Well, you have been real honest, so I guess it's my turn. And I'm going to lay my soul naked since we will never see each other after tonight. Huh, what could she possibly say to me? I shook my head. What is it, Annie? I'm sick, she said. Sick? How sick? I asked. I have stage 4 esophageal cancer. My heart crested and fell to a deep sadness. I'm sorry. I have no idea what that means. Only that it must be bad. It means I was told 4 weeks ago that I had 6 weeks to live. You look great, I said. I had no idea what to say. Of course I meet the only girl who captivates me in Vegas and she's dying of cancer. Can I ask you a question? I asked. Sure, you have been real honest. I'll try to be. Why did you even tell me? This night easily could have gone by and I wouldn't have known that about you. I just wanted to be honest with someone who was honest back with me. Like I said, I have a hard time trusting people. I trust you, Tommy. I trust you with everything. Thank you, I said, humbled by her pain. Man, this was bad timing. I need a change of scenery, I said. Let's hit it, she said and grabbed her purse.